Thank you.
Brigadier, I'm going to move from this point and go to the next set of chats. There are calls that happen on the 24th, 25th, and let's just turn to the 26th of February. That's still on page 30. There's first a video call, a call at 15:35. Thereafter, Mr. Matlala sends you a message at 15:39, just saying signal. And then you respond at 15:55 with, I'm going to do it on my private phone. Then there's a screenshot. Maybe before I go further, can you explain what was happening here?
Yeah, I think maybe you must take it with a screenshot. My WhatsApp was acting up. There was a problem with my WhatsApp. When I was calling or receiving calls, then I'll get this message of waiting for others. Even when I was called people will be saying to me, are you connecting additional people to our WhatsApp conversation? Then I was showing him the proof that my WhatsApp is saying waiting for others. I don't know why it was saying WhatsApp for waiting for others. Then he said you must download Signal.
Well, the WhatsApp that you are discussing now comes after he has said to you Signal.
Yes.
You are talking to Mr. Matala up to the 26th on the phone at 15:35, and then it's a call from you on the 26th, and then he sends you a message at 15:39. So you called him 15:35. He sends you a message 15:39. He says Signal. What was that all about?
The same explanation, Commissioner. When I was talking to him over the phone, I told him that my WhatsApp, when someone is calling me, is indicating waiting for others. Then he says download Signal. Then he forwarded me the name Signal.
Okay. And why? Why did he want you to? What do you know about Signal? And why did he want you to be on Signal? You could have done a normal voice call. So it's not as if your only option was Signal.
It works better than WhatsApp.
But you also say, I'm going to do it on my private phone.
Yes.
Well, it seems that at this point, you and Mr. Matala realize that whatever further conversation you're going to have, it has to be a secret conversation that no one can hear. Otherwise, because that's what Signal does. I think I can put that to you. Let's not debate Signal. People go to Signal to get absolute secrecy, as best as that app can do. So he suggests that to you. Let's go to a more private platform. And then you also say, I'm going to do it on my private phone. Yes, that's you saying, I'll do it on my private phone. So you both agree to leave this phone that you are using and the platform. If it was simply a WhatsApp problem, which, well, I know I do. If I struggle with WhatsApp, I do a normal voice call. You're not choosing that. You seem to both prefer now to move to a more private platform. Why is that?
He says it works the same as WhatsApp.
Brigadier, is the answer not what appears on page 31 at the bottom of the page?
Page?
31. Is
When
the
he
answer
says
not
they're
that
bugging it.
Mr. Matlala suspected that his phone was bugged? That's
My
why
phone.
he suggested to you that you move to Signal. He did not want you to continue the conversation on WhatsApp because he suspected that his phone was bugged.
No, not his phone, my phone. It's my phone because he's saying, I'm sending him a picture
Yes.
which indicate that when someone calls me on WhatsApp, it says waiting for others. Now his response is they are bugging it.
Is he referring there to your phone?
Yes, to my phone.
And then, Brigadier, you proceed to say that you're still downloading WhatsApp and Signal on your private phone, network is slow, otherwise we'll call you tomorrow. And that's at page 32 at 1955. You see that? And he responds with okay. Did you end up downloading Signal and having conversations there rather?
Yes, I did.
Thank you, Brigadier. And then you'll see then on the 27th, so the very next day, you continue using this phone, both of you, because he then calls you at 11:26.
Where are you?
The
Which
next,
page are you?
Still on
You're
page
still on
32.
31.
On page 32.
Okay.
Remember, you say that you then downloaded Signal and then you proceeded to talk on that platform. You see now the very next day you continue on this phone.
Yes.
Did the fears about being bugged or issues with WhatsApp disappear?
What happened, I deleted my WhatsApp. I deleted the whole of WhatsApp and downloaded it again.
So is this to say then you no longer used that Signal platform?
Yes.
You reverted back to
Yes,
this?
because I was struggling to download the Signal on my phone.
Wait, so you didn't download the Signal?
I can't remember if I downloaded it or not, but I was struggling to download it. Hence, we continued.
Here, as a text, like, I mean, a bubble with audio or video call. Maybe I'm misunderstanding you. You were struggling to download Signal, you didn't download Signal. Does that mean that then that was the end of that conversation and nothing else happened? Or is it that you downloaded Signal and had a conversation, but because you rebooted your WhatsApp, there was no longer a need to use it?
I downloaded Signal, but I struggled using Signal.
Okay,
Then I deleted my WhatsApp
yes.
and downloaded a new WhatsApp. Hence, we are continuing using the WhatsApp because I was struggling with the Signal.
So there wasn't a further conversation on the 26th?
On the 26th. No, there was. There it says, I'm still downloading WhatsApp and Signal on my private phone. Network slow, otherwise we'll call you tomorrow. And he says, okay.
Yes, I think we may just be speaking past each other. I take it that you didn't use Signal and there wasn't a
Yes,
separate call.
yes,
The following
yes.
day, you just proceeded to use this phone. That's correct? Okay. Then, Brigadier, then let's go to the following day on the 27th of February 2025 at 11:26. It starts there with a call from Mr. Matlala. You'll see then he responds, you respond. You write to him and say, ballistics EC. Right? I just want to see how long. I'm going to run through the entire conversation on this day and then proceed to ask you about it. He responds with a question mark, right? You then say outstanding biological monitoring. At 12:48 as well, again you say, I do not have a list because it's not from my environment. He then responds and says, can you send the date when the medical was conducted? And then at 13:12, you say doctor's signature is 28 November 2025. Then you give Mr. Madlala a call. Just to begin with, can you help place or contextualize this conversation? What were you talking about here?
I think he was looking for some sort of a list, or he wanted to do medicals, or he was struggling with medical surveillance in Eastern Cape. And I said, no, it's ballistic Eastern Cape. He wanted the list. I don't have that list. It's not from my environment.
So in this context, it's Mr. Madlala who's asking for some sort of list.
Yes.
And you respond and say, ballistics EC.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand, he's asking for a list. Why is that your response?
I don't know whether he was asking for a list or he's asking for clarity. I'm looking at it, but what I know that it was not from my environment. If I'm responding to him to say ballistic Eastern Cape, that means it's not from my environment. Hence, further, I'm saying is the outstanding biological monitoring. I do not have a list because it's not from my environment.
Okay, so this is not from your environment, and then he proceeds to say, can you send the date when the medical was conducted? And then you provide a date. I am assuming that it's a date by when the medical should be conducted, because you then provide a future date, that doctor's signature is 28 November 2025. And this conversation happens in February of 2025.
Even that date doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it makes sense only if you say 2025 is an error. Because the previous message says he asks you to send a date when the medical was conducted. So it's a date in the past. So it seems that it would be, you meant 28 November 2024. You agree? You're shaking your head?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, you're nodding, rather. Yes, Ms. Boy?
So in this context, was it, I'm trying to understand why is it that, if your recollection is correct, that it is Mr. Madlala asking you for a list, why he would be asking you for this list? I'm assuming he would understand or know what environment you service.
I can't remember. That one I can't remember.
And then do you accept that even this kind of interaction, even if...
Perhaps, yeah, if you can hold your thoughts, and let's resume at 11:45. That's a Jen. We are starting a little bit late because the General was in some engagement with Ms. Powell and the Brigadier. Did I say what? The General. I'm promoting you, Brigadier. The Brigadier was in discussion with Ms. Powell, and yeah, that caused the delay. Ms. Powell?
Chair, we apologize about that.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Brigadier, we were on page 32 of the chats, and Brigadier, we're just trying to understand that conversation in particular. And just before we took a break, what I wanted to ask really relates to, I know you couldn't give us clarity on the engagement because you don't recall the specifics. But if you had regard to it, it then seems like, again, you and Mr. Madlala are talking about an environment that's not yours where he's seeking your assistance? Oh, my apologies, the mics.
Remember, for Mr. Matala just knows that I work in forensic. The medicals are from forensic. So for him, he will not differentiate the different component and the different sections. So whereby he needed clarity, he will sometimes call me, then I'll give him clarity.
Are you moving on?
No, I wanted to say, but in this instance, you couldn't give him clarity. And I suppose it just demonstrates sort of the blurred lines, you know, where on the one hand I want to stray away from using the word managing. You oversee this part in your official capacity. And then there's talks, or he reaches out because you have a relationship. And so you see this interaction, and as it plays out, it creates that sort of confusion, where sometimes you can't tell whether this is him contacting you as an overall overseer or as a girlfriend to say, help me there, I need this. Do you accept that?
I accept.
Brigadier, I think you do more than just create confusion, because you, according to these chats on page 32, you have a call with Mr. Matala at 11:26. And then the next thing that happens is you say ballistic EC. So, and he knows, he must know what you're talking about when you say ballistic EC. You've just had a call with him. So I think it is reasonable, at least for me, to say your ballistic EC had something to do with the call that you just had. Do you accept that's a fair way of dealing with this? Okay. And then he sends you a question mark shortly thereafter. And then you tell him, you answer his question mark. You say, outstanding biological monitoring. So you provide him with information. He's not asked you. He doesn't say, at least not on the WhatsApp chats, he doesn't say something about outstanding biological monitoring. What this suggests so far is that you volunteer information following your call. You volunteer something ballistic EC. His question mark may mean you're not clear. He doesn't fully understand what you're conveying. And then you tell him what it is. You say, outstanding biological monitoring. And then you go on to say, I do not have a list because it's not from my environment. So you tell him there's outstanding biological monitoring, but you can't provide him with a list. He doesn't ask you for a list after you say biological monitoring. He doesn't say, give me the list. You tell him, I do not have a list because it's not my environment. So you are going to give him a list, except it's not your environment, so you can't do it. Then he says, can you send the date when the medical was conducted? You say doctor's signature is 28 November, and we've agreed it must be 2024, not 2025. So even though it's not your environment, you have gone into the system to find the date, because you've just said to him it's not your environment. You can't give him information. So we know that what is accessible to you in your environment doesn't contain this information. That's why you can't give him a list. But you have the date. It must mean that you went into that environment, which is not yours, into their system, to see the date, to give it to him. That's what this sequence conveys, unless you give another explanation.
No comment, Commissioner.
Good morning, Brigadier.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Is it fair to conclude that if Mr. Matlala was not your boyfriend, this sort of communication would not be happening with you, but would be happening with people who are responsible for this line function?
No, it's not fair. I'm dealing with different service providers. I'm communicating with them whenever they are having challenges or when they want to inquire about something.
On similar issues?
As a health risk manager, I'm talking about other service providers, maybe your waste removal contract or your occupational exposure limit contract. Is different service providers.
Yes, so if they have issues with billing, for example, and billing correctly and submitting proper lists and submitting things about the work that they have done, do they normally communicate with you?
No, they don't.
Yes. And do they do it on WhatsApp when they communicate with you? Or is it usually on email?
No, even on WhatsApp, they do communicate.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe just to complete after you said no comment, I put to you what I say these WhatsApps convey, and you said no comment, and I just want to conclude it by saying that no comment in this case, I take it you accept what I say they convey, because you don't have a comment about it. And that's the basis on which I will treat your response as well. You accept what I've put to you that these WhatsApp messages convey.
I'm not accepting, Commissioner, and the reason for me saying no comment is when you are saying there's a system, I went into the system. We don't have a system that keeps this information.
Okay, maybe then let's explore that further. Where this is not your environment, how would you have known the doctor's signature date of 28 November 2024 for an area that doesn't fall within your space? It's Eastern Cape Ballistics EC, I think it's Eastern Cape, Outstanding Biological Monitoring. How would you have known that signature if you're dealing with something that doesn't belong to your area?
Sometimes when there's a challenge, there's 3 brigadiers in our environment that are managing this. Sometimes when there's a problem or a challenge or whatever, or anything that must be communicated to us, an email will be sent to the 3 of us.
No, but you don't have information, you don't have a list. And you say sometimes, you're not saying that was the case here. Can we just clarify that? That you're not saying to us now that you got this information about the doctor's signature, that you got that from an email that was sent to you and the other 3 brigadiers, or was sent by 3 brigadiers. You're not saying that.
When medicals are conducted, it's not a list, you'll get a COF. It might be that on 1249, can you send the date when the medical was conducted? It might be a different topic, not the one relating to the other 3
WhatsApp
messages.
Okay, it is not, Brigadier, because so the message before, can you send a date, that message is from you to him at 12:48, 47 seconds. You say, I do not have a list because it's not my environment. And at 12:49, 30 seconds, so at 12:49, 30 seconds, he says, can you send the date when the medical was conducted? So we know that there is no other communication between the 2 of you, between these WhatsApp messages. So it's not correct what you're saying, that it doesn't relate to that. If we work off your WhatsApp messages.
From my-
There is no intervening call, there is no intervening WhatsApp message that indicates that this is a different conversation. In fact, within the minute of you saying it's not in my environment, within a minute, he says, give me the date. And so you know what date he's referring to.
Unfortunately, Commissioner, on this one, I also cannot follow the sequence. I don't know. It might be that on our call, when we discuss, it might be that we discuss two things that are relating to this matter. The one for Eastern Cape and this one of the doctor, because now it's COF. Here we are talking about the list, which is a name list. On the other hand, can you send me the date when the medical was conducted? It's a COF only that will have a date.
I don't know
So
that.
it might be two different things. Hence, I'm saying this conversation, it might be, we can break it into two. But I also cannot follow this conversation. I'm struggling to follow it.
Yes, but Brigadier, remember unless now you want to tell us what your telephone call with Mr. Matlala was, you have said to us you don't remember what the telephone call at, on the 27th at 11:26, you don't remember what it was. So we have to work with that. We have to work with you do not have a recollection what it is. We can't now, as you're sitting there, start making up what it might not have been with you attempting to give an explanation. We have only WhatsApp messages to try and figure out what could have been the conversation. What we know is there's a call, and that call is followed by you saying ballistic EC. We know that, right? And because there's nothing else, there's no other WhatsApp exchange about ballistic EC, we deduce, and I'm saying to you, it's reasonable to deduce that the ballistic EC must have come from your telephone call with him, because that's what happened earlier at 11:26. You offer ballistic EC, it must come from your telephone call. And then, because anything else doesn't make sense, any other explanation would not make sense. And then he sends you a question mark. You know what that question mark means, because there's no telephone call between you after he sends the question mark. There's no call between the two of you. There's in fact you responding, saying outstanding biological monitoring. So you know what that question mark is asking you, and you could only know that from your earlier telephone call. And then he says, and then you say, you volunteer, I do not have a list because it's not from my environment. That's you volunteering. So we know this is not from your area, from what you say in the WhatsApp message. But a minute later, he says, send the date when the medical was conducted. And indeed, you send a date. And what I'm putting to you is, in the absence of an explanation, and all we have is working off these WhatsApp messages, it suggests that you got this information, you looked it up, because it's not in your area. You looked it up, it's not a different conversation, because those two messages are within a minute of each other. So we know it's the same, we must say it is the same, and you must have gotten this information from an area that doesn't belong to you. That's what I'm saying, that's what it looks like, and that I'm suggesting to you, that's in fact what it is. You went into the system, or you called somebody outside of your area and got this information so that you can give it to Mr. Matlala. Thank you, Ms. Bob.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi.